What if I told you a little boy once swept floors in someone else's shop, and today he owns 4 of his own? He had no money, no support, only hunger to change his life. From cleaning counters to counting profit, his journey is nothing short of unbelievable. And wait until you hear how it ends, because this story has a twist that no one saw coming. You'll learn how hard work, patience, and quiet vision turned a forgotten kid into a respected business owner. Welcome to Pure African Tales. If stories of real people rising from nothing inspire you, subscribe now and stay with us till the end. The story starts right now. Before we talk about how he built 4 shops with his own hands, we need to go back to the dusty streets of a small, busy neighborhood. Every morning before sunrise, a young boy would wake up, splash water on his face, and walk quietly to a shop that wasn't his. It wasn't much, just a corner store, crowded with crates, smells of oil, and the sound of old ceiling fans. He didn't own it. He didn't earn much, but he worked every single day. He swept the floors, he stacked the bottles, he watched, he listened, he learned. While other kids played outside, he wiped counters and handed customers their change with a shy smile. He was just a boy with no name in the crowd, but something in him was already building. Before we talk about the day he opened his first shop, we need to understand the silent battles he fought behind the counter. The shop wasn't his, but the work was real. From sunrise to late night, he stood on tired feet, wiping jars, refilling empty crates, and running after customers who dropped coins. The pay? Just enough for bread and maybe a cup of tea. But he never complained, not once, because in the quiet hours, when no one noticed him, he watched. He watched how the owner greeted regulars, how the prices changed depending on the season, how trust brought more profit than tricks. He asked small questions. Sometimes he got answers. Sometimes he got silence. But his eyes were always open, and so was his mind. While others saw him as a helper, he was slowly becoming something more. Before we talk about how he opened the doors to his own shop, we have to look at the small steps no one saw. He didn't earn much, but he started saving anyway. 1 coin, 1 note, a few rupees tucked away each week under his mat or inside an old biscuit tin. While others laughed at the idea, he believed something better was waiting. The shop owner noticed, not just his work, but his honesty, his timing, his eyes that noticed everything. Soon, the boy was trusted with more, counting the evening cash, closing the shutters, even ordering goods. Customers began to greet him by name. They'd ask for him if he wasn't there. He was no longer just the helper. He started imagining shelves of his own, a name board painted in his handwriting, and a place where he wouldn't have to wait for permission to dream. The idea was still small, but it had already taken root. Before we talk about how he became the owner of 4 shops, we need to pause at the moment his very first one began. It wasn't big. Just a small wooden stall on the corner of a busy street, with a rusted shutter and a hand-painted sign. But to him, it felt like a palace. On the first day, he stood there with shaking hands, arranging packets, counting coins, adjusting labels like they were gold. He had no shelves filled to the top, only what he could afford. Some biscuits, tea leaves, cooking oil, and soap. Customers passed by, glancing, curious. But many walked on. Bigger shops stood nearby, already trusted, already known. By afternoon, only a few had bought anything. But he didn't close early. He stood all day, waiting, smiling. And just when the light began to fade, an old woman from his neighborhood came by and said, "I remember you. You served me well before. I'll buy from you now." That night, he went home with less money than he expected, but more hope than he'd ever felt before. Before we talk about the man he became, We have to look at how one small stall slowly grew into something much bigger. He didn't take days off. He didn't waste a single rupee. Every little profit went back into the shelves. A few more items, better packaging, a small freezer, a fan for hot days. He didn't hire strangers. He brought in his younger brother first, then a cousin, then a friend who had lost his job. One shop became two. Two became three. By the time he opened his fourth shop, people had already started calling him Sir. But growth wasn't easy. There were weeks when deliveries were late. There were months when sales dropped. He had to borrow once. He almost gave up once. There were long nights of waiting at warehouses and early mornings of setting up before the sun rose. But he never stopped, because deep down, he still remembered the boy who once wiped counters for someone else. Before we talk about where he began, a boy who once cleaned shelves for someone else now owns 4 shops of his own, not because he was lucky, but because he paid attention, because he worked harder than most, and because his community didn't forget his honesty. He didn't wait for opportunity. He built it. One coin, one customer, one quiet step at a time. And if a child with nothing, no name, no power, no shortcut, can rise to this level, then maybe so can you. What would you build if you had to start your life working in someone else's shop at age 12? Think about it. And if this story moved you, like the video, subscribe to Pure African Tales and share it with someone who needs a little reminder that big things often start from the smallest corners. We'll see you in the next story.